AITA for evicting my stepsister's MLM inventory from my inherited storage unit and billing her for the disposal? Posted to r/entitled parents. Buckle up, because this is going to be a long one. I've been lurking on this sub for years, never thinking I'd have my own story to share, but here we are. I need to get this off my chest and maybe get some validation that I'm not the villain my family is making me out to be. Background. I'm 26F, and I work as a bank teller at a regional credit union. It's not glamorous, but I'm good at it, I have excellent benefits, and I'm slowly working my way toward a management position. I've always been the responsible one in my family, the one who saves money, plans ahead, and doesn't make impulsive decisions. This will become relevant. My mom passed away when I was 8, and my dad remarried when I was 11. My stepmother, Linda, 48F, has never been outright cruel to me, but there's always been this undercurrent of favoritism toward her biological daughter, my stepsister Bree, 23F. I accepted this dynamic a long time ago. It stung growing up, but I learned to rely on myself and, more importantly, on my Aunt Margaret. Aunt Margaret was my mom's older sister, and she was my rock after Mom died. She never had kids of her own, and she treated me like I was her daughter. She's the one who helped me with college applications, who gave me my first real interview outfit, who taught me about investing and building credit. While my dad and Linda were focused on Bree's various ventures, Aunt Margaret was quietly making sure I had the tools to succeed. When Aunt Margaret passed away 18 months ago after a battle with pancreatic cancer, I was devastated. But she left me something that changed my life. Her condo. It's a modest 2-bedroom unit in a decent part of town, and it came with a storage unit in the building's basement. The mortgage was paid off, and she'd left enough in savings to cover the HOA fees for 3 years while I got on my feet. I was overwhelmed with gratitude. Finally, I had something that was mine, something no one could take from me. Or so I thought. The setup. Here's where things get complicated. When I inherited the condo, I was still living in my cramped studio apartment across town. It took me about 4 months to properly transition into the new place because I wanted to do some updates first. New paint, deep cleaning, replacing the ancient carpet with laminate flooring. I did most of the work myself on weekends to save money. During this transition period, I made a mistake. I mentioned to my dad at a family dinner that the condo came with a storage unit, and that I was temporarily keeping the key at my apartment since I hadn't moved my things over yet. Linda's ears perked up at this, but I didn't think much of it at the time. 2 weeks later, I noticed the spare key to the storage unit was missing from the hook by my door. I tore my apartment apart looking for it, eventually convincing myself I must have misplaced it during the chaos of moving. I figured I'd just get a replacement from the building manager and moved on with my life. It wasn't until I'd been living in the condo for 3 months that I finally decided to check out the storage unit. I had some of Aunt Margaret's things I wanted to store there. Photo albums, her antique sewing machine, holiday decorations, and I was excited to finally set it up. When I opened that door, my stomach dropped. The storage unit, my storage unit, was packed floor to ceiling with boxes. And not just any boxes. Boxes emblazoned with LulaRich leggings and Nutrivibe wellness solutions. For those who don't know, LulaRich is one of those MLM legging companies that was everywhere a few years ago, and Nutrivibe is a supplement pyramid scheme that promises weight loss through natural botanical blends that probably contain nothing more than caffeine and wishful thinking. I stood there in shock, trying to process what I was seeing. There had to be hundreds of boxes. Racks of leggings in eye-watering patterns hung from a portable clothing rack someone had wedged in the corner. Boxes of supplements were stacked like a fortress. And taped to the inside of the door was a hand-drawn sign that read, Bree's Boutique and Wellness Center, Inventory Storage. I called Bree immediately. The confrontation. "Oh my God, you finally found it," Bree said when she answered, her voice dripping with forced cheerfulness. "Isn't it amazing? I've been building my empire, sis." "Bree, what is all of this? Why is it in my storage unit?" "Well, Mom said you weren't using it, and I needed somewhere to keep my inventory. Do you know how expensive commercial storage is? This saved me like $300 a month." I felt the vein in my temple start to throb. "Linda gave you a key to my storage unit? When? How?" "Like 4 months ago. She got it from your apartment when she helped you pack that one time. She said you'd be fine with it since you're always going on about supporting family." I absolutely did not recall ever saying that, but more pressing issues were at hand. "Bree, you need to get this stuff out of here. This weekend." There was a long pause. "I can't do that. I have a huge showcase next month, and I need to be able to access my inventory. Besides, some of my customers have this address for pickups." "What?" "Yeah, it's super convenient. They just come by, text me, and I bring their orders up from storage. It's basically my brick-and-mortar location now. My blood pressure was reaching dangerous levels. You've been giving out my address to strangers? They're not strangers, they're my customers. God, why are you being so dramatic? I hung up and immediately called my dad, explaining the situation. I expected him to be on my side. He was not. Honey, I really think you're overreacting, Dad said in his infuriatingly calm voice. Bree's trying to build something for herself. Can't you be supportive? It's just a storage unit. It's my storage unit, Dad. That Aunt Margaret left to me. Your aunt would have wanted you to help family. She was always generous. That's when I saw red. Aunt Margaret was generous with me because Linda and Dad had never been. The audacity of him invoking her name to justify this was staggering. I'll give Bree 2 weeks to clear everything out, I said through clenched teeth. After that, I'm changing the locks. Update 1. 1 week later. I thought setting a clear boundary would resolve this. I was wrong. The very next Saturday morning, I was awakened at 7:45 a.m. by someone buzzing my unit repeatedly. Still in my pajamas, I stumbled to the intercom. Hello. Hi. I'm here to pick up my LuLaRich order from Bree's boutique. She said to buzz Unit 4B. I felt my eye twitch. There's no boutique here. This is a private residence. Oh, but I have the address right here on her card. I had to explain to this poor, confused woman that she'd been given incorrect information. She was understanding about it, but I was mortified. And it didn't stop there. Over the next 3 days, I had 7 different people show up looking for leggings, supplements, or both. One woman brought her 4 children and demanded to see the showroom. Another guy got aggressive when I told him there was no business operating from my address, insisting I was trying to steal his pre-order. I confronted Bree again, this time via text so I'd have documentation. Bree, you need to stop giving people my address. I had 7 customers show up this week. BREE. OMG, that's amazing. My marketing is really working. Can you just tell them to wait while you run down and grab their orders? I'll Venmo you $5 for your trouble smiling face with smiling eyes. No. Absolutely not. I am not your warehouse employee. The deadline to remove your inventory is this Saturday. I'm serious. BRE, you're being so selfish. This is my career. Do you want me to fail? I want you to respect my property and my boundaries. She left me on read. By Friday, nothing had been moved. I knew what I had to do. I called a locksmith and had the storage unit lock replaced. I also sent a certified letter to Bree and CC'd Linda and my dad, formally notifying them that any property remaining in the storage unit after 30 days would be considered abandoned and disposed of according to my state's abandoned property laws. I'd done my research. Working at a bank has taught me a lot about protecting yourself legally. The family group chat exploded. Linda, I cannot believe you would treat your own sister this way. Your aunt would be ashamed. Dad, can we please just discuss this like adults? There's no need for lawyers and letters. Bree, you changed the locks. I have a showcase in 2 weeks. I'm going to sue you. You have 30 days to arrange removal of your property with my supervision present. That's more than fair and more than legally required. I'll be documenting everything. Then came the message that still makes my blood boil when I think about it. Linda, it's really sad that you can't support women entrepreneurs. Bree is trying to build generational wealth for her future family, and you're standing in the way because of petty jealousy. Your mother would be disappointed. I screenshot everything and saved it to multiple cloud drives. Update 2. The inventory assessment. After the certified letter was sent, I decided I needed to know exactly what I was dealing with. I took a Saturday afternoon to properly inventory everything in the storage unit. I brought a notebook, my phone camera, and a growing sense of dread. The results were worse than I'd imagined. LuLaRich leggings. 47 boxes of assorted leggings, approximately 12 pairs per box equals 564 pairs. 23 loose pairs hanging on the rack, various sizes, mostly XS and 3XL, the sizes that never sell. Estimated retail value based on their website, $12,408. Estimated actual value based on the fact that LuLaRich has been hemorrhaging consultants and their products end up in dollar stores. Maybe $400 on a good day. NutraVibe supplements. 89 boxes of Tropical Metabolism Boost powder, 34 boxes of Collagen Renewal Complex capsules, 22 boxes of Detox Dream, T12 bottles of something called Youth Elixir that looked genuinely concerning. All of the supplements were set to expire within 6 to 8 months. Estimated retail value $8. $847 estimated actual value, approximately $0. Since expired supplements can't be sold and are potentially hazardous waste. Total retail value Bree had been claiming, over $21,000 in inventory assets. Total realistic value, maybe $500, and that's being generous. But here's what really got me. As I was photographing everything, I found a box of Bree's business cards. Professional quality, thick cardstock, rose gold foil lettering. They read, Bree's Boutique and Wellness Bree Patterson, CEO and Wellness Advocate, Curated Fashion, Holistic Health, Financial Freedom. And underneath, in elegant script, my condo's address, listed as flagship location, by appointment only. She had 500 of these cards. I also found a laminated business plan that detailed her goals for the year. She wanted to recruit 15 team members by summer, qualify for a leadership retreat in Cancun, and eventually quit her part-time job at the tanning salon to pursue entrepreneurship full-time. The delusion was so thick I could have cut it with a knife. I documented everything meticulously, photographs with timestamps, a detailed spreadsheet of inventory, copies of all the business materials that featured my address. Then I went upstairs and poured myself a very large glass of wine. Update 3. The family dinner from hell. 2 weeks into the 30-day notice period, my dad called and asked, more like begged, me to come to a family dinner so we could work this out like civilized people. Against my better judgment, I agreed. I thought maybe, just maybe, face-to-face conversation would help them understand my perspective. I was spectacularly wrong. When I arrived, it was immediately clear that this was an ambush, not a dinner. Linda, Bree, my dad, and, to my surprise, Linda's sister Cheryl were all seated in the living room with matching expressions of disappointed concern. Like they were staging an intervention for someone with a gambling addiction, except I was the one being treated like I had the problem. Sweetie, sit down, Linda said with false warmth. We want to help you. Help me with what, exactly? Your attitude, Bree cut in. You've been so negative lately, and it's affecting everyone. I remained standing. My attitude is a direct response to finding thousands of dollars of MLM inventory illegally stored in my property without my knowledge or consent. There you go with the word illegal again, my dad sighed. Nobody did anything illegal. This is family. Actually, unauthorized use of someone else's property is. This is what we're talking about. Linda interrupted. You've become so cold and calculating. It's like you care more about rules and laws than about your own family. Aunt Cheryl leaned forward. I've seen this before, honey. Sometimes when people receive a sudden windfall, like an inheritance, it changes them. Makes them selfish. We're worried about you. I stood there, stunned, as 4 adults tried to gaslight me into believing that protecting my own property made me the villain. Let me make sure I understand, I said slowly. Linda stole a key from my apartment. She gave it to Bree without my knowledge. Bree filled my storage unit with MLM merchandise, gave my home address to strangers, and has been operating an unlicensed business for my residents for months. And I'm the problem. You're twisting everything. Bree wailed. I was just trying to build something for myself. Not everyone has a rich dead aunt who hands them a free condo. The room went very quiet. I picked up my bag. Aunt Margaret left me that condo because she actually showed up for me when no one else did. She didn't hand me anything. She loved me, and I spent years earning that love. Don't you ever mention her again. I walked out without looking back. The text started before I reached my car. Dad, that was uncalled for. Please come back so we can talk rationally. Linda, I hope you're happy. Bree is hysterical. Bree, I'm never speaking to you again. You ruined everything. I muted the group chat and drove home in silence. Update 4, the collapse. You know what's funny about pyramid schemes? They always collapse. It's not a matter of if, but when. And Bree's empire fell apart faster than even I had anticipated. About a week after the disastrous family dinner, I started getting frantic texts from Bree. The 30-day deadline was approaching, and suddenly she was very motivated to get her inventory out. Bree, hey, so I need to get my stuff this weekend. Can we schedule a time? Me, Saturday between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. I'll be present the entire time. Bree, actually can we do like 7 a.m.? I need to load everything into Derek's truck and he has work at noon. Me, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Those are your options. Bree, OMG fine. Selfish much. Saturday arrived, and so did Bree, in tears. I watched from a folding chair as she and her boyfriend Derek loaded box after box into his already stuffed pickup truck. Bree was sniffling the entire time, occasionally shooting me wounded looks as if I were personally responsible for her suffering. "I hope you're happy," she finally snapped. "I'm going to have to rent an actual storage unit now. Do you know how much that costs? I believe you mentioned $300 a month, which you've been avoiding for the past 7 months. So you actually owe me $2,100 in equivalent rent." Her face went through several colors before settling on puce. "You're charging me?" "I'm just doing the math, Bree. You said it yourself. You saved $300 a month by using my unit without permission. That's called theft of services." Derek wisely stayed quiet and kept loading boxes. When the storage unit was finally empty, I inspected it thoroughly. There were stains on the concrete floor. Something had leaked from one of the supplement boxes and left a suspicious greenish residue. The walls had been scratched by the clothing rack. I took photos of everything. "I expect you to pay for cleaning and repairs," I said. Bree laughed, but it had a hysterical edge. "With what? Do you have any idea what's happening to me right now?" And then it came pouring out. LuLaRich had restructured its compensation plan, making it nearly impossible for consultants at Bree's level to earn commissions. Half her downline, the people she'd recruited, had quit, which killed her monthly bonuses. The company had also been hit with a class action lawsuit, and consultants were abandoning ship en masse. Meanwhile, NutraVibe had received a warning letter from the FDA about unsubstantiated health claims, and retailers were refusing to carry their products. The company had pivoted to a subscription model that none of Bree's customers wanted. "I'm in $15,000 of credit card debt," Bree admitted, her voice cracking. "I haven't made a sale in 6 weeks. I don't know what to do with all this inventory. Mom and Dad are saying they can't help because they already lent me money for my startup costs and I still haven't paid them back." For a brief moment, I felt a twinge of sympathy. But then I remembered every dismissive comment, every entitled demand, every time she and Linda had treated me like a lesser member of the family. "I'm sorry you're going through this," I said carefully. "But none of this is my responsibility. You made choices, and these are the consequences." She left without another word. Update 5, the aftermath. It's been 3 months since the storage unit was cleared out, and I finally have the closure I needed. The greenish stain on the storage unit floor? It cost me $200 to have professionally cleaned after attempts to scrub it myself failed. The scratches on the wall needed to be repainted to avoid an HOA violation. Another $150. I sent Bree an invoice with photographs and documentation. She never paid. I didn't expect her to, honestly. From what I've heard through family grapevine, Dad occasionally breaks our mutual silence to update me on things I don't ask about. Bree's situation has deteriorated significantly. She couldn't afford her actual storage unit rental, so guess where all that inventory went? Linda and Dad's garage. All $21,000, retail value, of unsellable leggings and soon-to-expire supplements are now taking up space in their 2-car garage, which means their cars are parked outside. The supplements are expiring, making them worthless even as a tax write-off. The leggings are increasingly out of style and piling up in thrift store donation bins across the city. Bree tried to liquidate her inventory on Facebook Marketplace for pennies on the dollar, but she still had hundreds of items left. Linda, meanwhile, has apparently become insufferable. She's been complaining to anyone who will listen about how unfair the MLM industry is, how her daughter was taken advantage of, and how certain family members refused to help during Bree's time of need. She's conveniently rewritten history to exclude her own role in facilitating this entire disaster. Dad called me last week. It was the first real conversation we'd had since the family dinner. "I owe you an apology," he said quietly. "I should have backed you up. I was trying to keep the peace, but I see now that just enabled bad behavior." "I appreciate that, Dad. But I need you to understand something. This wasn't about the storage unit. It was about being treated like my property, my boundaries, and my feelings don't matter. Linda stole from me. Bree exploited me. And you stood by and told me to let it happen." He didn't have a response to that. We talked for a while longer, tentatively, carefully. I don't know if our relationship will ever fully recover, but at least we're talking. That's more than I can say for Linda and Bree, who have both blocked me on everything. As for me, I'm doing better than ever, honestly. The condo is fully mine now, decorated exactly how I want it. I had the storage unit lock changed again just to be safe, and I'm using it to store Aunt Margaret's things, her sewing machine, her photo albums, her collection of vintage cookbooks. Things that actually have value to me. I've been promoted at work to a senior teller position, with a management track opening up next year. I've started building an emergency fund, something Aunt Margaret always stressed the importance of. I even adopted a cat named Margaret Jr., Maggie for short, who keeps me company in my very quiet, very peaceful condo. Last week, I visited Aunt Margaret's grave for the first time since this whole mess started. I told her everything, about the storage unit, about Bree, about finally standing up for myself. I know you would have handled it more gracefully, I told her. But I think you'd understand why I did what I did. A warm breeze picked up as I was talking, rustling the flowers I'd brought. I chose to interpret that as agreement. Final reflections. Looking back, I think the most frustrating part of this entire experience was being painted as the villain for enforcing completely reasonable boundaries. I was called selfish, jealous, unsupportive, and cold, all because I wouldn't let my stepsister treat my inherited property as her personal warehouse. The women supporting women and female entrepreneur language was particularly galling. There's nothing empowering about MLMs. They're predatory business models that disproportionately target women and leave them in financial ruin while enriching the people at the top. Bree wasn't building an empire. She was being exploited by companies that profit from her desperation. But she didn't want to hear that. Neither did Linda. And my dad just wanted everyone to get along, even if that meant sacrificing my interests for the sake of false peace. I've learned a lot through this experience. I've learned that boundaries aren't selfish, they're necessary. I've learned that being the responsible one in the family means people will try to exploit your responsibility. And I've learned that sometimes, the best thing you can do for yourself is stop trying to earn love from people who have never truly offered it. Aunt Margaret's condo wasn't just a gift of property. It was a gift of independence. For the first time in my life, I have something that's completely mine, something no one can take from me or use against me. And I'm never going to let anyone make me feel guilty for protecting it. Thanks for reading this whole saga, Reddit. Sometimes you just need to get it all out. TLDR, stepmother stole my storage unit key and gave it to stepsister, who filled the unit with $21,000 worth of MLM products and gave strangers my home address. Family called me unsupportive of women entrepreneurs when I evicted her inventory. Pyramid scheme collapsed. Stepsister is now $15,000 in debt with a garage full of expired supplements and ugly leggings, and I have a cat named after my aunt. Edit. Wow, I didn't expect this to blow up. To answer some common questions. Yes, I did consult with a lawyer about small claims court for the cleaning costs. She advised that while I'd likely win, the cost of filing and Bree's obvious inability to pay made it not worth pursuing. Sometimes you have to accept that the cost of peace of mind is a few $100s. No, I don't feel bad about how things turned out for Bree. She's an adult who made adult choices. My sympathy has limits. And yes, Maggie the cat is absolutely adorable. I'll try to figure out how to add the cat tax in the comments. Thanks for all the support, everyone. It means more than you know. His Michelin star was built on my 3 a.m. experiments. Now everyone knows it, and I have my own restaurant. Original post. I'm watching my former mentor on television right now. He's standing at a podium in a custom-tailored chef's coat, accepting a prestigious culinary award for his signature dish, a deconstructed bouillabaisse with saffron foam and a shellfish essence that takes 14 hours to prepare. I created that dish. I created it at 3 a.m. on a Tuesday, after working a 16-hour shift, while he was at home sleeping. I remember the exact moment the idea crystallized. I was cleaning the walk-in cooler, exhausted, and I noticed how the light caught the edge of a mussel shell. Something clicked. I spent the next 6 weeks perfecting the technique, the ratios, the presentation. When I finally served it to him, his eyes lit up in a way I'd never seen before. This, he said, this is going to change everything. He was right. It did change everything. Just not for me. The hardest part wasn't being fired. It was watching him accept awards for dishes I created at 3 a.m. while he was sleeping. I need to tell you this story because I don't know what else to do. I've been silent for 8 months, and the silence is crushing me. Maybe writing it out will help me figure out my next move. Maybe you'll tell me I'm the one who's wrong here. At this point, I genuinely don't know anymore. The beginning, 6 years ago. I was 22 when I walked into his kitchen as an unpaid intern. Fresh out of culinary school, drowning in student debt, and so desperate to learn from a real chef that I would have done almost anything for the opportunity. And he was brilliant. I need you to understand that before anything else, he was genuinely, undeniably brilliant. The way he moved through the kitchen was like watching someone conduct an orchestra. He could taste a sauce and identify exactly which ingredient was half a gram off. He understood flavor the way some people understand mathematics. More importantly, He saw something in me. "You've got instincts," he told me during my second week. "Most culinary school graduates cook with their heads. You cook with your gut. That's rare." He took me under his wing. While other interns were relegated to peeling potatoes and washing dishes, he let me shadow him during service. He explained his reasoning, his philosophy, his approach to building a dish from concept to plate. He introduced me to vendors, taught me how to select produce, showed me the business side of running a restaurant. For 6 years I told myself this was mentorship. That someday he'd acknowledge what I contributed. I was building his legacy while erasing my own. When I was promoted from intern to line cook after 3 months, I cried in the walk-in. When he made me sous chef 2 years later, I called my mother and told her that everything was finally coming together. He came to my birthday dinner. He wrote me a recommendation letter for a James Beard scholarship I didn't get. When my grandmother died, he gave me a week off, paid, even though the restaurant was slammed. He wasn't a monster. That's what makes this so complicated. Monsters are easy to hate. He was a man who did real, meaningful things for me, who shaped my career in ways I'll never be able to fully repay. And he was also a man who systematically took credit for my creative work while convincing me it was normal. The dynamic. The first time it happened, I didn't even notice. I'd been playing around with a dish at home, a duck confit with a cherry gastrique and a surprising element of black pepper that cut through the richness. I brought it to him, nervous, wanting his opinion. He tasted it. He closed his eyes. He nodded slowly. "This is going on the menu," he said. "Tomorrow. I'll present it during the staff meeting." I was thrilled. My dish. On the menu. When tomorrow came, he introduced it as my new creation, inspired by a recent trip to Lyon. I was standing right there. He didn't look at me once. I told myself he meant my, as in my kitchen. I told myself it was a team effort. I told myself that in professional kitchens, the head chef gets credit for everything. That's just how the industry works. The mentor-mentee relationship operates on different rules. And here's the thing, I wasn't wrong. Not entirely. There is a tradition in high-end kitchens where the executive chef takes credit for the menu. The chef's name is on the door. The chef bears the responsibility if something fails. In that context, it made a certain kind of sense. But it happened again. And again. And again. Over 6 years, I created 12 signature dishes that became the restaurant's identity. The black sesame miso cod. The lavender honey lamb with preserved lemon. The coffee-rubbed short rib that food critics called transcendent. And yes, the tasting menu that earned the restaurant its Michelin star. All 7 courses. Every dish on his menu has my fingerprints on it. He just painted over my name. He would take my concepts and present them at industry events. He would discuss his creative process in interviews. When food magazines came to do profiles, I would cook the dishes while he posed for photos. When the Michelin inspectors visited, I ran the kitchen while he glad-handed at tables. I told myself I was learning. I told myself my time would come. I told myself that when I eventually opened my own restaurant, I would have this incredible foundation of experience. I was patient. I was grateful. I was stupid. The breaking point. Last year, he announced he was opening a second restaurant. A larger space, more ambitious menu, higher profile location. He needed an executive chef to run it while he oversaw both operations. I had given him 6 years. 6 years of my creativity, my labor, my nights and weekends and holidays. 6 years of watching him take credit while I bit my tongue. I had earned this. I asked for a meeting. I prepared my case carefully. Revenue numbers, critical reviews of dishes I'd created, a proposal for how I'd run the new location. I rehearsed in the mirror. I wore my best chef's coat. I want to run the new restaurant, I told him. I've earned it. And I want my name on the dishes I've created. Co-credit, at least. Something that acknowledges my contribution. The silence lasted maybe 5 seconds. It felt like 5 minutes. His face changed. Not angry, something colder than anger. Disappointed, almost. Like I'd broken some unspoken rule. "The dishes you've created," he repeated. "In my kitchen. With my training. Using techniques I taught you." "Yes," I said. "My recipes. My ideas. You wouldn't have a Michelin star without." "Careful," he said. "Be very careful what you say next." I should have been careful. I should have backed down, apologized, kept my head low. But 6 years of swallowed pride came rushing up at once. "It's the truth," I said. "And everyone in that kitchen knows it." He called me replaceable. Turns out the only irreplaceable thing was the talent he was stealing. He stood up. He smoothed his coat. He looked at me like I was a stranger who'd wandered in off the street. "I think we're done here," he said. "You can pick up your final check on Friday. Don't come back to my kitchen." Just like that. 6 years, ended in 30 seconds. The aftermath. I thought I could recover quickly. I had an impressive resume, sous chef at a Michelin-starred restaurant, 6 years of experience at the highest level. I knew people. I had connections. I didn't understand how powerful he really was. Within 2 weeks, I realized I'd been blacklisted. Restaurants that had seemed interested suddenly went cold. Calls weren't returned. Interviews were cancelled. One chef I'd known for years finally told me the truth over drinks. "He's telling everyone you're unstable. That you tried to sabotage the kitchen when you left. I don't believe it, but I can't hire you." "I'm sorry. I can't afford to make an enemy of him." Every door in the city closed. He had spent 2 decades building relationships, investing in people, creating a network of loyalty and obligation. I had spent 6 years hiding in his shadow. I had no connections of my own. All my connections were through him. I took a job at a catering company, doing corporate events and wedding buffets. It paid the bills. It killed my soul a little bit every day. I came home at night and cooked elaborate meals for myself, just to remember what it felt like to create something. I watched his restaurant continue to succeed. I watched the second location open to rave reviews, staffed by a new executive chef who, I later learned, quit after 4 months due to creative differences. I watched him give interviews about his artistic vision and his commitment to innovation. I watched him accept awards for my work. 8 months of this. 8 months of silence and catering jobs and bitterness that I couldn't shake no matter how hard I tried. 8 months of asking myself if I'd made a mistake, if I should have just kept quiet, if I was the unreasonable one. Then a friend called with an opportunity. Update 1. The pop-up. A small brewery on the east side of the city had a kitchen they weren't using. The owner was looking for someone to do occasional pop-up dinners, nothing permanent, just weekend events, bring your own concept. The pay was minimal, but I'd have complete creative control. I almost said no. What was the point? I was a disgraced sous chef working wedding buffets. Who would care about my cooking now? But something in me couldn't let go. Some stubborn, idiotic part of my brain that still believed I had something to offer. I said yes. The first dinner was 12 seats. I did everything myself: prep, cooking, plating, service. I charged $40 a person, which barely covered costs. I created a completely new menu, dishes I'd been dreaming about for months but never had the chance to make. Things that were mine and only mine. 11 people showed up. 1 didn't. But those 11 people, they understood. I could see it in their faces when they took the first bite. That spark of recognition when food transcends fuel and becomes something else. I did it again the next weekend. 20 seats this time, all full. Then 30. Then 40. I wasn't advertising. I wasn't on social media. But word was spreading through channels I couldn't track. People were talking. I didn't want revenge. I just wanted to cook. The revenge found me anyway. Update 2. The discovery. It happened 3 months into the pop-up's run. A food blogger came to dinner. I didn't recognize her, didn't know who she was. She ordered the tasting menu and ate in focused silence, taking notes between courses. After service, she asked to speak with me. She was direct, almost blunt. "I've eaten at your former mentor's restaurant multiple times," she said. "The Michelin-starred one. I've had his signature dishes. The black sesame miso cod. The deconstructed bouillabaisse. The coffee short rib." My stomach dropped. I thought she was going to accuse me of stealing from him. "What you served tonight," she continued, "it's the same foundation, the same sensibility, but evolved, refined. Like hearing a musician play their own compositions after someone else has been covering them badly for years." She paused. "Those aren't his dishes, are they? They're yours." I didn't know what to say. I'd been so careful not to badmouth him publicly, not to make accusations I couldn't prove. I was terrified of giving him more ammunition to use against me. "I can't comment on that," I said finally. "I worked in his kitchen for 6 years. Obviously there's influence." She nodded slowly. "I'm going to write about tonight's dinner. Just the food, nothing else. But I'm also going to do some research. Because something here doesn't add up, and I think the truth deserves to come out." Her review went up 2 days later. She called my pop-up a revelation, and the most exciting new voice in the city's dining scene. She didn't mention him at all. But the review went viral. Suddenly, I couldn't accommodate demand. People were showing up without reservations, begging for a seat. Other food writers came, then local journalists, then a photographer from a national food magazine. And they all noticed the same thing. My food had a distinctive voice that seemed strangely familiar. A voice they'd heard before, at a certain Michelin-starred restaurant across town. Questions started being asked. Update 3. The investigation. The blogger who'd first noticed the connection wasn't satisfied with just reviewing my food. She started digging. She reached out to former employees of his restaurant, line cooks, prep staff, front-of-house workers who'd moved on to other jobs. She found people who'd worked alongside me during those 6 years. She asked them about the kitchen's creative process, about how dishes were developed, about who contributed what. What she found wasn't surprising to me. But it was surprising to everyone else. The stories were consistent. I had developed the recipes. I had run the experimental tastings. I had documented the techniques. Multiple former colleagues remembered specific moments. The night I created the bouillabaisse, the weekend I perfected the miso cod glaze, the month I spent developing the tasting menu that earned the star. One former line cook had photos, time-stamped photos of recipe development notes in my handwriting. Another had text messages from years ago, complaining to a friend about how the head chef always takes credit for everything she creates. The blogger didn't accuse anyone of anything directly. She just published a long-form piece titled, "Who Really Created the Dishes at Restaurant Name?" It laid out the evidence and let readers draw their own conclusions. The conclusions were not kind to my former mentor. Update 4. The unraveling. The story got picked up by larger publications. Then by industry trade magazines. Then by the general media. A narrative formed. Famous chef exploits young female protégé, takes credit for her work, fires her when she asks for recognition. He tried to fight back. He gave interviews denying everything. He claimed the blogger was biased, that disgruntled former employees were unreliable witnesses, that I was a talented cook but nothing more. He talked about the collaborative nature of professional kitchens and the unfortunate misunderstandings that can arise. But the evidence was too strong. And worse for him, other women started coming forward. Not with accusations of credit theft, but with stories of similar patterns. Careers cut short, contributions minimized, credit redirected. The narrative expanded beyond me. The Michelin Guide announced it was reviewing the star designation, citing concerns about the integrity of the creative process. This wasn't an official decision yet, just a statement that they were looking into it. But in the industry, that kind of statement is devastating. His second restaurant's opening was delayed indefinitely. Investors got nervous. Business at the original location dropped by 30% as customers who'd once lined up for reservations suddenly discovered other options. He called me once. Left a voicemail. His voice was strange, part angry, part pleading, part something I couldn't identify. He said I was destroying everything we'd built together. He said I was being vindictive. He said he'd given me opportunities no one else would have. He wasn't entirely wrong about that last part. He had given me opportunities. He had taught me things. For a long time, he had been the most important person in my professional life. But he'd also stolen from me. And when I asked for even partial recognition of what I'd contributed, he tried to destroy me. I didn't call him back. Update 5. The Transcendence. It's been 4 months since the story broke. I'm writing this from the prep kitchen of my new restaurant, a real restaurant, not a pop-up, in a space that used to be a flower shop. We open in 6 weeks. The funding came from an investor group that specializes in supporting emerging chefs, particularly women who've been pushed out of male-dominated kitchens. They reached out to me after the story got national attention. The terms are fair. The creative control is entirely mine. My former mentor's restaurant lost its Michelin star last month. The official statement was diplomatic, something about evolving standards and reassessment of the dining landscape, but everyone understood what it really meant. His reputation has been permanently tarnished. The industry that once celebrated him now treats him as a cautionary tale. Part of me expected to feel satisfied by this. Vindicated. Triumphant. I don't, really. I feel something more complicated, a kind of tired relief, mixed with sadness for what could have been. Here's what I've realized over these past few months. I don't want to be defined by what he stole from me. I don't want my career to be a response to his betrayal. I don't want every interview to be about him, every profile to center on this conflict, every review to mention the controversy. The dishes I created in his kitchen, the bouillabaisse, the miso cod, the coffee short rib, they're good. I'm proud of them. But they're not my best work. They were created under constraints, developed within someone else's vision, shaped by a relationship that was, I now understand, fundamentally exploitative. The food I'm creating now is different. Freer. More fully me. For 6 years I told myself this was mentorship. That someday he'd acknowledge what I contributed. I was building his legacy while erasing my own. But I'm not erasing myself anymore. I'm building something new. The old dishes that made him famous are already starting to feel like early work compared to what I'm doing now. Critics who've tasted my new menu describe it as a creative leap forward and evidence of a fully realized artistic vision. One writer said it's like the difference between a cover band and the original artist finally stepping into the spotlight. Meanwhile, he's stuck. He's defended those dishes for so long as his own creation that he can't abandon them, but he also can't evolve them, because he never understood them in the first place. He's become a curator of work he didn't create, unable to move forward, unable to let go. I don't know what his future holds. Maybe he'll recover. Maybe he'll find a way to reinvent himself. Maybe he'll quietly fade from the spotlight and open a consulting firm or write a cookbook about lessons learned. I genuinely hope he finds peace, eventually. Not because he deserves it, I'm not that enlightened, but because I don't want to carry resentment forever. It's too heavy. It takes up space that I need for other things. Final reflection. A journalist asked me last week if I felt vindicated. If this outcome was what I'd hoped for when the story first broke. I thought about it for a while before answering. I didn't want revenge, I said finally. I just wanted to cook. The revenge found me anyway. That's the honest truth. I never set out to expose him or destroy his career. I just wanted to make food that mattered, food that was mine, food that I could be proud of without seeing his name attached to it. The exposure happened because I couldn't hide my own voice. It came through in every dish, and people recognized it. He called me replaceable. Turns out the only irreplaceable thing was the talent he was stealing. I'm 28 years old. I'm about to open my own restaurant. I have decades of cooking ahead of me, decades of creativity and growth and evolution. The dishes that made him famous, my dishes, will eventually be footnotes in my career, early experiments that led to better things. He's 53. His reputation is permanently damaged. The work he's most known for belongs to someone else, and everyone knows it now. He can never escape that. In a strange way, we're both free now. He's free from the burden of pretending. I'm free from the burden of being pretended about. Last night, after a 16-hour prep day, I stayed late in the kitchen working on a new dish. It's not ready yet, the balance is off, the technique needs refinement, the presentation hasn't clicked. But there's something there. Something I can't quite articulate yet, something that exists in the space between the ingredients. I was alone in the kitchen at 3 a.m., exhausted, my hands smelling like citrus and smoke, and I realized I was happy. Not vindicated happy or revenge happy, but something simpler and more durable. The happiness of doing what I was meant to do. The happiness of finally being seen. Every dish on his menu has my fingerprints on it. He just painted over my name. But these new dishes, the ones I'm creating now, in my own kitchen, under my own name, these fingerprints will never be painted over. These are mine forever. The restaurant opens in 6 weeks. I'll let you know how it goes. Edit. Wow, I did not expect this response. Thank you for all the supportive messages. To answer some common questions. Yes, I consulted lawyers. The legal situation around recipe ownership in professional kitchens is complicated. Recipes themselves aren't copyrightable, but the documentation of my creative process was important for establishing the truth. Oh, I'm not going to sue him. It would cost more than I'd recover, and honestly, I just want to move forward. The pop-up is still running every weekend until the restaurant opens. If you want a reservation, the information is on my newly created website. For those asking about the new dishes, come try them. That's the best way I can explain what I'm doing now. Thank you again for reading this. Sometimes you just need to tell your story to strangers to remember that you're not crazy. Final update, 3 months later. We opened 2 weeks ago. 60 seats. Fully booked for the next 3 months. The reviews have been kind, kinder than I probably deserve for a first independent restaurant. But here's what matters more to me than the reviews. Every night, I see people take their first bite and go quiet. That specific silence. The one that means something has connected. I'm working harder than I've ever worked in my life. I'm sleeping 4 hours a night. I've lost weight I can't afford to lose. My hands are covered in burns and cuts. I'm terrified every single day that something will go wrong. And I've never been happier. My former mentor's original restaurant closed last month. He released a statement about pursuing new opportunities and the natural evolution of the hospitality industry. I don't know what happened to his staff. I hope they landed somewhere good. I heard he's working on a cookbook, a memoir of his career. I wonder how he'll tell the story. I wonder if he's found a way to make himself the hero. But you know what? I don't really think about him much anymore. I'm too busy creating new things. Better things. The hardest part wasn't being fired. It was watching him accept awards for dishes I created at 3 a.m. while he was sleeping. But now I'm the one who's awake at 3 a.m. And the dishes I'm creating are mine. Just mine. NTA, by the way. In case anyone was still wondering. Here's what I learned from having my work stolen for 6 years. Talent has a voice that can't be silenced forever. For 6 years I told myself this was mentorship. That someday he'd acknowledge what I contributed. I was building his legacy while erasing my own. Every dish I created at 3 a.m. while he was sleeping became his creation by morning. I told myself that's how kitchens work. The head chef's name is on the door. The head chef takes the credit. It's tradition. It's how the industry operates. But there's a difference between tradition and theft. Tradition is a chef putting their name on a collaborative menu. Theft is looking your protege in the eye and saying, "These are my creations," when you know that she invented them while you were home in bed. Every dish on his menu has my fingerprints on it. He just painted over my name. When I finally asked for recognition, not ownership, just acknowledgement, he called me replaceable. Fired me in 30 seconds. Blacklisted me across the industry. Tried to erase me entirely. Turns out the only irreplaceable thing was the talent he was stealing. I didn't want revenge. I just wanted to cook. The revenge found me anyway. I opened a tiny pop-up because I couldn't stop creating. 12 seats. Then 20. Then 40. Word spread. Food bloggers came. And they noticed something strange. My dishes had a voice they recognized. A voice they'd heard before, at his Michelin-starred restaurant. The truth came out not because I exposed him, but because I couldn't hide my own voice. It came through in every dish. People recognized it. The same sensibility. The same fingerprints. Just evolved. Refined. Like hearing a musician finally play their own compositions after someone else has been covering them badly for years. He's stuck now. He defended those dishes as his own for so long that he can't abandon them. But he can't evolve them either, because he never understood them in the first place. He's become a curator of work he didn't create, unable to move forward, unable to let go. His restaurant lost its Michelin star. His second location never opened. His reputation is permanently tarnished. I'm 28. I just opened my own restaurant. 60 seats. Booked for 3 months. Working harder than I've ever worked. Sleeping 4 hours a night. Terrified every day. And I've never been happier. The hardest part wasn't being fired. It was watching him accept awards for dishes I created at 3 a.m. while he was sleeping. But now I'm the one who's awake at 3 a.m. And the dishes I'm creating are mine. Just mine. He gave me opportunities. He taught me things. For a long time, he was the most important person in my professional life. But he also stole from me. And when I asked for even partial recognition, he tried to destroy me. I hope he finds peace eventually. Not because he deserves it, I'm not that enlightened, but because I don't want to carry resentment forever. It's too heavy. It takes up space I need for other things. The old dishes that made him famous are already starting to feel like early work compared to what I'm doing now. Critics call it a creative leap forward. One writer said it's like the difference between a cover band and the original artist finally stepping into the spotlight. I'm not defined by what he stole anymore. I'm defined by what I'm creating. And no one will ever paint over my name again.